Thanks for joining us here on Northwest Access TV. I am Paul, host of Huddle Up. And to my left, Dustin Tanner. And to my right, from I guess a familiar face. I haven't seen you in a while. Inside or outside of the studio.
He's alive.
JT is alive. He's on a plethora of antibiotics. But you're here. You're alive. It's good to hear from you. It's good to see the little text bubbles go every now and then from the phone. And let you know that you're the index finger is still working there.
Messages.
Yeah, basically. We have lots to talk about, especially for the fact that JT, a lifelong Philadelphia Eagles fan, Eagles are finally back in the Super Bowl, and as we all well know, a longtime Patriots fan, back in the Super Bowl once again for the second consecutive year, third time in 4 years. Is there tension or no tension? Do you have no worries at all? It's just
I have worries.
You have worries, but there's nothing between us, right? We're still good?
No, we'll always be good.
Okay, just making sure. I don't want.
Should I slide in the Paul's spot?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So we have a
separates
buffer
a little
between
bit.
both of you guys.
No, see, this is the difference, and I've always been this way. There are two different types of fans. There are true fans of the sport, and then there are arrogant
Basically,
fans.
every video we've seen from the Eagles fans from the
Yes.
Minnesota game.
Yes, except for the
That's
guy
side of the
running into
fan.
the pool.
Which that's just wholesome.
That
That's
was-
just wholesome.
Okay,
That
we'll
was
talk about that later on. Let's begin the show with some show starters, and we're gonna go with the one that we were just talking about. So we're gonna go to Dustin real quick.
Oh, we're gonna go to me first.
Yeah, we're gonna go to you first because you were just talking about this. So I want to just jump into it because we have lots of football to talk about. So let's get some basketball out of the way first.
Yeah, so I would like to congratulate myself on making it to Huddle Up this morning. It was a grind for me to get here.
See,
Dustin,
I think you're doing it wrong already.
I'm doing it wrong already.
You should have posted this last week or yesterday.
I should have posted this like 2 hours ago on my way in. For those of you who don't know, LeBron James, the night before scoring 30,000 points, posted an Instagram post congratulating himself on the milestone. And it was, I'm just going to read this really quickly. Want to be one of the first to congratulate this on this accomplishment achievement tonight that you'll reach. Only a handful has reached/seen it too, and while I know it's never been a goal of yours from the beginning, please try to take a moment for yourself on how you've done it. Like, this is LeBron James posting on his Instagram account about himself. Mind you,
It's actually 17-year-old LeBron James.
Mind you, the Cavs have lost 10 out of their last 13 games. They also lost this game that they played against the Spurs. It's just a bad look. Like, I get LeBron James.
Has LeBron done any good looks?
Okay, hold on. Has LeBron ever been about the team? Has he ever been about the team?
No.
What has he been about?
LeBron James has always been about his brand.
About his brand, about LeBron James. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I wasn't surprised by this.
No, it doesn't
He
surprise me.
posted it. I was like, oh yeah, that seems like a LeBron James thing to do.
Yeah,
Congratulate yourself
he
before
looks
you do
like an
it.
idiot, but it is what it is.
That's what he always he does those things. Those are the things that it doesn't shock me at all. So
Let's have a press conference to tell you I'm leaving Cleveland.
This is what I'm saying. Like, he's done this his entire career. How does this shock
the
you?
decision. That raised like $100,000 for the Boys and Girls Club of Arkansas.
It was still an hour of just.
No, you didn't have to watch it.
Yeah, I did.
You could just
Sadly.
have just read the paper.
I know
the next
exactly
day.
where I was in Albany. My first career job, sitting there. I had work in like 6 hours, and I sat there and watched the damn decision.
There's an hour of your life you didn't get back.
That's how I look back on it. I'm not shocked by the fact that he did this. So, like, for you to say, like, oh, it's just dumb, it's a bad look. Not really. It's just LeBron James being LeBron James. I mean, the Red Sox have had for years Manny being Manny. This is LeBron being LeBron. There's nothing different.
This is new level of LeBron James cheesiness.
It's not a new level.
Not.
No, I don't
think we've seen that new level yet.
No.
Wait till he gets to LA next year. Then we'll see a whole new level of LeBron James.
Do you think he's actually going to LA next year?
I don't think he's clearly not gonna stay in Cleveland.
Well, Dan Snyder wants to sell the team now, so you never know.
He's not staying in Cleveland.
Who's Dan Snyder's the
not Dan
owner of the
Snyder.
Washington
Dan
Red Sox.
Gilbert.
He's also
Dan
my brother, and I don't think he's got the money or
Dan
clout to be able to
Gilbert
do
wants
that.
to sell.
Dan Gilbert wants to.
Oh boy.
See, Dan, you got in his head with that Ben Roethlisberger picture. He's in your head
Walking
now.
boot.
All right, so let's go over to football. For me, I wanted to talk briefly about the Brady and Belichick relationship. After they won the AFC Championship game, they asked Bill Belichick how proud or whatever he was with Brady with his accomplishments in the AFC and being overcome the adversity of the stitches on his hand. And he basically shrugged it off, saying, it's not open heart surgery.
Might be one of my favorite Belichick quotes ever right there.
And what I want to get at is Brady just can't win. He could impress everyone in the world. He could change everyone's mind in the world of how great he really is. And Belichick will still be there saying, the ball could have been thrown better.
Doesn't matter,
Like,
Paul.
it doesn't matter to Belichick.
It doesn't matter how many Super Bowls Tom Brady
love
wins.
this.
Because Tom Brady will still not win Patriot of the Week.
Belichick is that,
Ever.
like, disapproving father that Brady just can never impress. Dad, just give me a hug for once. Tell me you love me. Tell me you love me once. Just once.
And I just love how it was like, it's not open heart surgery. Like, just completely shrugs it off.
Yeah, like, it's not, it's football. You're playing football. It's a couple stitches, whatever. So I love the relationship between them, and it's shown over the article from Self Wilkerson is that, there seems to be this feud going on between them, but I feel like this has just been their relationship the whole time. And we've talked about this too. They're not buddies. They've never been buddies. They've always just been coworkers with a common goal: win. And I love their relationship. It's something I would never want to have with anyone else because I think it takes some type of tough skin to be able to have that kind of relationship with anybody. Mm-hmm. But I absolutely love being able to see it from the outside in. If that makes any sense. So we're going to stick with football. You want to talk about the effect of the front four.
Yeah.
And we're talking specifically the Eagles.
No.
No, okay.
No, not specifically the Eagles. Obviously, it pertains to the Eagles because that's what their defense relies on. You have two different schemes, really, in defending a good quarterback. You can blitz a lot, try to get to him, or you can go back into cover. And the best part about a team like the Eagles, and there's a couple other teams, Jacksonville's one of them as well, and we all saw what they were able to do against Brady, is if your front four can get to the quarterback and you can put everybody else out into coverage, you are in such a huge success. Because at the end of the day, you put your entire defense on man, one-on-one, Brady will tear you apart. If you do nothing but zone coverage all night, Brady will tear you apart.
Okay, that seems like both options there. That seems like that's the either
or. Is there a third coverage?
Is there a third coverage option we're not aware of?
You can leave,
prevent defense.
You can leave. You can double up. You can for somebody like Gronk, you can afford to take one of your linebackers and double up on Gronk.
Can you?
You can.
How?
Because you have enough people. Because you're only rushing your front four.
Don't. Now you have you're rushing your front four, but then you still have running backs to worry about.
This is true, but that takes one.
You still have matchups to worry about. If you're going to put Gronk, and
the only matchup you're worried about is Gronk.
You have your linebacker on a Gronk.
What?
One more time.
The only matchup you're worried about is Gronk.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so at all.
No, not a bit. Have you
Absolutely.
seen the Patriots?
He's definitely the biggest threat on that team, but he's not the only matchup you have to worry about.
The only other person I would consider worrying about is Cooks. I don't think
you're thinking right about this. The wide receivers core, the running back core, is not the person you have to worry about. It's the person that puts those chess pieces in the places they need to be. Brady is the one you need to worry about.
That's
because
the front four's job.
Because he's proven over the years that it doesn't matter who is my receiving core, I'm getting in that end zone.
But that's not who we were talking about. We were saying that coverage.
I'm saying that he's that chess master. He's the one that's there putting the piece. He's going, okay, you're there, you're there, you're there. Now I'm going to move the pieces around so they can get open.
But the thing I look at with
and the front four really wasn't. They didn't really show much. I vaguely remember, I guess, the first half or so of the AFC Championship game with the Jaguars, but they weren't really effective. I mean, Brady wasn't sacked a whole lot of time. I think he was maybe touched a couple times, if that.
Nope. It's just a matter of him getting in there. You can't hold the ball. You can't wait for the ball to get down the field. You get there early enough to just make that throw maybe just slightly high, maybe just slightly low. It's not necessarily a matter of getting to the quarterback actually sacking him.
About disrupting the pocket.
It's just a matter of changing how you can pass the ball in the pocket. And when you look at a quarterback like Tom Brady, he stays in the pocket. He moves out of that pocket, and every Patriots fan in the world is going,
holding your breath a little bit.
The simple fact is if you can if you can disrupt the pocket with a front four without having to blitz anybody, you leave the backside of the field covered. And when I say worrying about coverage against the Patriots, Cooks is a great wide receiver, but he is no Julio Jones. He is no Antonio Brown. So you don't worry about
the top two receivers in the league. Is what
he is no elite top 5 receiver in the league.
He's not big. He's fast.
But you don't have to be.
No,
Because look at your counterpart. Look at your
cornerbacks are typically smaller. So being able to cover up on a player like him is okay. Danny Amendola is okay. But the only person that any team really cannot cover
is
Gronk.
How do you and that's I think that's what the Jaguars they found a solution for. How do we beat Gronk?
Give him a concussion.
Take him out of the game. So it just makes me nervous that like that's probably the angle that the Eagles are going to go at.
Well, let's not think that the Eagles players are as bad as some of the fans that are posting videos, okay? They're not bad.
They sure talk a lot so far, and it's only been a few days.
By the way, I would just like to point out for your Braden Cooks argument that he is not an elite receiver. I'm not saying he is top 5, but his last 3 seasons, 84 receptions, 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, 78 receptions, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. This year, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Like, Braden Cooks
How many receptions?
He had 65
There it is. That's why he's not considered a big type of receiver but that's, I mean, that for any fantasy owner that knows that, they know not to pick up somebody on the Patriots as a wide receiver because the ball gets spread so much.
I'm just saying that Brandon Cooks is better than some people would give him credit for in that case because he's a good receiver.
I'm not saying he's a bad receiver, but
which is
he's
really
not
funny that we say that.
receiver.
We're really saying that it's funny that we're kind of putting him in that like, oh, he's not a great receiver. He was 6 receptions for 100 yards in the AFC Championship game. Any other person, you're going, oh, he had a good game. But because he's Brandon Cooks.
I think I'd put him towards the bottom of the top 10. You can make him the argument that he's the 10th best receiver or the 9th best receiver in the league.
No.
Oh, yes, you can.
How?
Oh, yes, you can.
I think we'll get into that next week. I think we can discuss it.
We
We
can
can do a little more research, Dustin, and we can look at the top 10 wide receivers of the league. So we're into the whole, and actually, I'll talk about Brandon Cooks right now because I wanted to get into this whole, they were just Twitter, Facebook, whatever, exploded because of the Patriots aren't penalized like the Jaguars were. And I look over the course of the year when it comes to pass interference, and there's just so many examples in my mind that stand out where I feel like when it comes to pass interference, I think the Patriots are just doing something that no other team is doing. And no, it's not paying off the refs. And no, it's not, it's nothing like crazy like that. I think it's more in the lines of they're just manipulating the call. They're very good at that. They've been very good at that throughout through Belichick's career. He's been very good about manipulating the rules to help his team win. And I feel like pass interference is the same way. Are we at that point now that Brady just can't make the deep plays? So you get a guy like Cooks that outruns every single running back or every single cornerback. So Brandon Cooks heads down the field as fast as he can, gets in front of the cornerback. Brady can't make that throw. It's a nice little, it's an underthrown ball. Cooks has to stop. The defender runs into him. Pass interference. We've seen it all the time this year. I feel like every game there's at least one play where that happens with Brandon Cooks. Maybe that was the point of Brandon Cooks in. It's like, okay, we need a deep threat. Do we need a deep threat, or do we need just to manipulate the way that the league is turning with taking on, where the refs are really honed in on defensive pass interference?
I mean, a Brandon Cooks guy, as he is 10th in the league as far as wide receivers go in receiving yards.
But Dustin, we're talking about pass interference. Try to stay on topic here.
Yeah, I'm staying on the same topic. I'm getting there. But like that type of guy is that your speed threat, and you see these teams that have successful pass threats have that speed threat. And not only can he stretch the defense, he can draw those flags. You see it with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins all the time.
But
he can draw those flags.
Right, but that's not what I'm getting. I'm getting at the fact that maybe the Patriots, the reason they're not getting flagged as much is because they're manipulating the rules like they do every year. They're not breaking the rules. They're adhering to them. They're going, okay, how can we use the rules on our side? Mm-hmm. And that's what I see with Brandon Cooks is that you have him going down now I know the one with the one that was out of bounds that I'm more than on everyone's side that wasn't pass interference. But there's so many times this year where Brandon Cooks has gone past the defender, had to stop on a dime, gets run over, and it's pass interference. Don't be surprised if you see it again in the Super Bowl, because I feel like that's their game plan.
Without a doubt, but at the same token, like every team that has a true deep ball threat utilizes that to some instance.
But not to the extent that the Patriots do. It seems like every week they're doing it.
I will definitely give you that Cooks probably gets more of those than probably anybody else.
But I think that's part of their game plan. Their game plan is, hey, Cook, run as fast as you can past this guy. I'm going to throw it well short. Just stop. That's all you have to do. And then, boom, we've got 40, 45 yards because my arm can't necessarily reach you can't catch up to you anymore.
Bad.
It's been bad since 2007, okay? And that's only because it was Randy Moss. Brady, I've said this years and years online. I hate his deep pass. I see people like, I think I said this on the show a few weeks ago when Drew Brees was throwing throughout the whole game. Everything's like 20 feet off the ground and just a beeline. And then you go to Brady and it's just this rainbow. Yeah, it's pretty, I guess, if you want to look at it, but it's not. It's not effective at all. And what happens is that there's a defensive pass interference call because the wide receiver has to stop, gets run into by the defender. Okay, now we actually got those 45 yards, but the ball that was thrown was terrible. But then you have someone like Drew Brees that it's perfect. It's so pretty. Yeah. So that's where I get it. Is I feel like they're just manipulating the rules. So I don't really believe in the whole conspiracy that clearly the refs are on their side, or the NFL is out to get out to help the Patriots, because that's clearly not the case. You can see over the years. But that they're actually saying, okay, you know what? This rule's in place. Pass interference is one of the biggest calls in recent memory that they keep calling.
It's the job of a coach. It's the job of the coach to look at it and go, and that's how do we utilize this?
And I think that's, it could be a conspiracy, could not be, but I think that's their game plan. Is at least once a game, we're going to go deep, but we're not really going to go deep. We're going to make them make a mistake. We're forcing them to make a mistake, which is so much different. Usually you wait for the mistake. You don't force someone to make a mistake.
Yeah.
So I think it's, in my mind, really cool of ingenious, really, of the Patriots organization, if that is the case. Would we ever find out that? No, we won't. But if it happens in the Super Bowl, I just want you guys to admire a little more. Just think about it a little more like, damn, Paul was right. Look what they just did.
I'm not going to admire anything.
Just look at it. All you have to do is be like, damn, Paul was right. Look, it happened. He went deep. The ball was underthrown. Pass interference. It's going to happen.
No, Super Bowl is probably going to be the only day that I'm yelling at you.
I'm not going to be there.
I know. I'm still going to be yelling at you.
So we get into the Super Bowl. There's just so much to talk about. But the one thing I wanted to address to you guys and just have you guys take on as a question is there really anything that can happen over the next 2 weeks other than Gronkowski being cleared to play, which I think we all think he's going to be cleared to play anyway? Is there anything that could happen in the next 10 days that would change how you think of what the results of this game? Because in my opinion, I look at this game and go, everyone's healthy except for Gronk, but I expect him to be ready. They're practicing all this week, or they're meeting all this week. They're practicing this week. They're getting all their stuff done. Next week is media week. Nothing can really be said during media night that it's going to change my mind anyway. But I look into this game going, I kind of feel like I know what's going to happen, or I have an idea of nothing's going to extremely change.
Carson Wentz could discover a miracle drug and magically heal his ACL.
Now take a serious take on it. Let me know what you really think.
On a serious take, I was talking about this on the game Tuesday night that we covered locally here. This feels like it's going to be one of those 24-16 or 28-17 games where the Patriots just keep the Eagles kind of in it, so you kind of keep it tuned in, but it's kind of a blow. I don't think the Eagles really have a shot against the Patriots in 2 weeks, no matter who gets healthy. I don't think anything changes there. I think the Patriots' offense is just spectacular, and I do not trust Nick Foles as a quarterback in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. I will say Nick Foles is probably one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL and is worth the $7 million price tag he will have to retain him on that roster next year. But I don't think Nick Foles is going to be able to outduel Tom Brady and win a Super Bowl. Matt Ryan can't do it. You list the quarterbacks that Tom Brady's gone up against in the Super Bowl that these are not bad quarterbacks.
It's so hard. I understand your take, but it's so hard to compare a quarterback versus a quarterback when they don't play each other on the field.
Yeah, I know that, but
it's coach versus quarterback.
Also, the thing about the Eagles' defense is that if you look at what the Eagles' defense weakness is, it's those crossing routes. There's a great video. I'll share it with you guys on the Facebook chat that this guy did of a breakdown. And the way you beat the Eagles is by those crossing routes, those pick routes. And if there's something the New England Patriots are great at with Cooks and Amendola and Gronk.
They pick
It's those pick plays. Tom Brady is going to have himself a field day with the pick plays because he'll be able to get that ball out quick. And you know what? Even if Gronk can't play, I still think with the tight end that they have now, they're going to be able to get. He's still going to be able to have that type of game.
I don't know how you can look at the Eagles and say they have no chance. Because that's ignorant. Because if you look at this game and you look team for team, running backs, we have the best running backs in the league. Two powerhouse backs.
Okay, you call them two powerhouse backs, but look what the production of the Patriots running backs have been able to do. No, they're not your typical running back, but their production either equals or exceeds what Blunt and Ajayi were able to do this year.
Negative.
Do I need to pull up the stats on this one?
Pull up the stats.
I'll pull up the stats.
And then let's look at a tight end. Zach Ertz, Gronkowski, two of the best tight ends in the game. kind of equal there. Cooks, Jeffrey, both great receivers.
Yeah.
Then let's go Torrey Smith, Danny Amendola. Okay, pretty equal there.
I would put Danny Amendola over there because Torrey Smith hasn't done much. He's a broken down wide receiver that's trying to come back.
He's
as opposed to
a
Danny
deep
Amendola
threat
has been,
ball.
But Danny Amendola is your third down guy. Which one?
Right, so
which one am I going to value more?
I'll go
I'm going
with
to value
Aguilar.
my third down guy more than I'm going to do a deep
I'll go
threat.
with Aguilar and Amendola. There's your comparison there. I would actually probably put Torrey Smith more than Brandon Cooks because that's the deep ball guy. The point is this offense has multiple weapons. It's not a one-star show. It's not a one-trick pony. When you look at a team like Jacksonville, their offense has one threat, a running back.
So
that's it.
So
don't cut me off.
Okay.
Finish.
So
I'll let you finish.
When you
You got
look
38
at, when you
minutes,
look
we're
at
good.
these things, you have yes, Nick Foles is a backup quarterback. He played great as a starter in Philadelphia
4 years ago.
4 years ago. He has played okay.
If you look at
coming back
his average throughout the games that he's played, it's been okay.
It's been okay. The thing with this is you have enough options, enough threats, and you have an offensive coach that is pedal to the metal all the time. Fourth down, I don't care. We're going for it.
And that's what they said about
This is-
Jacksonville, but they weren't able to get over that hump either. Because Doug Marrone is probably the poster child of go for it.
So let's be very clear. Are we going to put Nick Foles above Blake Bortles? Because I sure would any day of the week.
would.
I'm just saying. But when I'm talking, you talk to coaches. You weren't
Yes.
talking quarterbacks. You're talking coaches.
Jacksonville couldn't move the ball in the second half. The Eagles will be able to move the ball. Do I think the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl? No, I don't. I think they're going to lose. But I think they have the capability, and I think they have a shot at it. It takes a little bit of luck. That defense isn't going to get a completely horribly thrown ball, pick six. Like, that's not going to happen. You can't rely on stuff like that against Tom Brady.
There's a lot that happened in that pick six that made that
Yes.
work. Right.
But the thing for me is you can't look at the Eagles and say they don't have a chance or this is going to be some, like, toy game because the Eagles are as comparable to the Patriots as any other team.
So we'll get into, I guess, a little bit. We'll get to where the X factor is because we have this week and next week to talk about it. So we want to get into who is that X factor. And I think for the Patriots, I clearly believe it's either Gronkowski or Tom Brady. Those are your X factors. It depends on how they're able to manage the game or how they're able to stay healthy for the game. I don't know who it is on the Eagles side.
And Ajayi.
So I'm just going to point this out because you told me that, that Blunt and Ajayi were one of the better backfields in the league.
You want to point this out, or you want to confirm stats that we talked about
I'm going to
earlier?
confirm the stats that Dion Lewis has more rushing yards than Grant Blunt. And then Mike Josie.
They run
Rex
three
Burkhead.
different backs all
This
year.
is not
Yeah,
what I
the
said. I said
Patriots run-
statistically they're better. That's what I said.
Statistically, the Eagles have a guy of 766, 321, 408. The Patriots, 896, 383, 264, 171. The Patriots have four backs that have combined for more yards than the three running backs that the Eagles run for have combined for. So your argument saying that Blunt and Ajayi and Clement are better than what the Patriots have in the backfield is statistically proven wrong. Anyway, we can move on from that point.
Touchdowns?
Touchdowns.
I think the Eagles.
Touchdowns. So
It's only got, like, 2 this year.
Lewis himself beats the Eagles on touchdowns by.
So I want to point out I was right statistically speaking because they're used in a different way. They're not used as your.
They're not runners.
They're not right. They're really not. Dion Lewis is really your only running back that you're utilizing as a running back.
And also, I only just took pure rushing stats. I didn't even look at their receiving stats. So, but the Patriots
Which I
backfield
would assume would be more
which is
because of
better
the way
than-
the way they utilize them. So I'm saying so Dustin just proved my point that even as used as a running back, they're statistically better than the two that you have for the Eagles or the three Clement as well.
Clement, I put
so
Clement in there.
Again, because you have to stretch it here because you
How?
also have Sproles that was there at the beginning of the year as well. But at the end of the day, the simple fact is not saying if you are creating a backfield for any team other than the Patriots, who are you adding? Are you adding a Jay Ajayi?
Ingram.
Man, he's got a point. He got a good point.
Are you adding Ajayi and Blount? Or are you adding Dion Lewis and James White?
Dion Lewis and James White any day of the week.
Why?
Because look what they're able to do. They're not one-dimensional.
They're only
Blount
good
is one-dimensional.
in the Patriots' offense.
Blount is one-dimensional.
He sure is.
He can
Absolutely.
only run. Put your head down and run. He can't catch.
No.
He's never been able to do that.
Don't need him to.
But that's what I'm saying. They don't.
That's what you got Ajayi for.
But you have running backs for the Patriots that can do both. Mm-hmm. They just don't utilize them both, but they can do both.
Also, if you know,
I think that's what's really going to take that. That's what could take the Eagles by surprise is if they start utilizing the way they're not supposed to be, the way you never see them as. You might see Rex Burkhead have one of the biggest games he's ever had in this game because they're finally going to utilize him for what he's supposed to be doing, being a running back.
Eagles
You can say
shut
luck
down
all you
every
want,
running
but
back.
no, they're not. They're not. Like look, you give me crap about my Texans saying these things. I'm going to give you crap right about your Eagles. Yes, your Eagles have made the Super Bowl. They're a great team. They are not going to shut down the Patriots' running attack the way you think they're going to shut
How
down.
not?
Because if they shut down the running attack, you know what they're going to do? They're going to start throwing screens. They're going to split them wide.
Is that a running attack?
What ranking was the Jaguars' defense this year?
Passing. Number one.
No, overall.
Number one, I believe.
Number one overall. Their passing defense was their strength, not their running defense.
But overall, they were what?
Eagles are the running defense team.
And,
so don't look at me and say that they can't shut down the running
defense team. They're the running defense team. But what do the Patriots do more than anything?
But that's not my point.
Pass.
He's arguing that the Eagles can't shut down the running game, or the Eagles can't shut down the Patriots' running game.
I think it's almost like they can focus on the running game, but that's not like if they're focusing on the running game that's
not their focus. You have to stop Brady.
You still have Amendola. You still have Gronk, and this is why I do not.
Hello, still 24/7.
This isn't going to be a defensive game.
No.
This is an offensive game.
But Nick Foles is not going to be able to keep
I think
up
that's,
with Tom Brady.
I think that's where you're wrong.
Not.
I think that's where you're wrong when you're saying it's offensive game because the Patriots have been I think I said it earlier, the poster child of bend
Defense
don't break.
at the end.
Bend don't break. You can have all the yards. Nick Foles can throw for 500 yards in this game, but they might only put up like 3 field goals. They're very good at not once you're in the red zone of shutting you down.
But look at the Eagles'
and also
offense.
focusing on the people that are going to hurt you the most. So who on the Eagles is the person or people that are going to hurt the Patriots the most?
It depends. It changes every week, just like the Patriots do.
Look, who is your superstar on the Eagles? That's what I'm trying to get at.
It changes, just like the Patriots do. You don't look at this roster and go, this guy's going to get 10 balls thrown to him every week. You don't know. That's the point. When you look at these two offensive games, they are so similar because there are so many threats. Don't look at this and say Nick Foles has no shot to do this. They get big plays. They have all year long.
I think this is
with
very
Carson
similar.
Wentz
I think it's going to be very similar to the Jaguars, where the Patriots are going to take out what they assume is their threat, which will be the running game, and they're going to make Nick Foles, who is a backup quarterback and is getting a second chance here, to beat them. You beat us.
I'm not saying he'll beat them, but
no. But I'm saying that's what I feel like. That's the position the Patriots are going to put the Eagles in. We're going to take away your running game because they're very good at taking away at least something.
But that's a better. Honestly, if they box up and try to take out Blount and Ajayi, it is nothing but a benefit for the Philadelphia Eagles because you are now putting two huge receivers that are deep ball threats, and then add in a Zach Ertz to go on top of it. One-on-one coverage. Take it all day long.
I think you forget who's in coverage in the backfield for the Patriots. I mean, these aren't these people that no one's ever heard of them, right? At all.
Not at all.
So I think they can easily match up with. Well, I shouldn't say easily, but I think they can definitely match up with who the Eagles are putting out there as wide receiver.
But that's the point. Is both teams can do both things.
I don't think it's the opposite way. I don't think it's the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles can match up with who the Patriots have the wide receiver.
How?
Because of the talent they have and the way that they're able to manipulate that defense. That's what I was trying to get at earlier.
And I think
I don't think Nick Foles has the intelligence to be able to do that.
Nick Foles is not Carson Wentz. So one of the things that the Eagles were able to do.
You're saying a guy who's been in this league for how many years and has won these games has no capability as a 2-year player?
Yes.
The reason why the Eagles' offense had been so effective is because of the run-pass option that Peterson had been able to put in that Wentz was really good at executing. Wentz was the fourth leading rusher on the Eagles, and he was able to execute that option. If Wentz is in this game, I'm probably picking the Eagles, to be honest, because Wentz can break down that defense of the Patriots. Nick Foles doesn't have that same athletic ability, and yes, he's had a couple of good games, but you look at the Vikings defense, the last 6 quarters, the Vikings, those last 2 quarters, Drew Brees broke that Vikings defense, gave the Eagles tape to study. And I just don't see those same weaknesses in the Patriots defense, because we know what the Patriots defense is. Yeah, I think Nick Foles could throw for 500 yards. It doesn't matter if he gets 3 or 4 field goals. That doesn't matter. You have to put up at least 30 on the Patriots to win this game.
How often are the Eagles in the red zone? Well, in true red zone, if you're looking at the 10-yard line, they're not there all that often.
What do you call
they
true red
are
zone?
A big play team.
Yeah.
They get the ball down the field. A lot of their touchdowns come from plays more than 20 yards.
Yeah.
On top of that, okay, you have Nick Foles, who ran a play option style when he was the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. He has more history playing in the sport than Carson Wentz. Yes, Carson Wentz is a much better quarterback. There's no argument there. But don't look at this and say he has no capability of doing it. He absolutely does. He could have done great. He went to a St. Louis team that was absolutely awful. You have 2 quarterbacks in the NFC Championship game that both came from Seattle that everyone was looking at them saying they both suck. No, they don't. That's a crappy team and coached poorly. Nick Foles has more talent than you're giving him credit for. He's not as good of a runner as Carson Wentz is, but he can still do it. He still plays a play-action style offense. Nothing's changed in that offense except for who is in that position. Don't tell me they can't do it. They can.
But you don't think they will?
I don't think they will. And the reason why I don't think they will.
I think you're going to convince yourself over the next week, because it sounds like you're already convincing yourself.
The
You're making yourself feel better as a fan right now.
I don't think they can win is because it comes down to that last possession. You can be tied. You can have a 3-point lead going into the final drive of the game. You're going to lose the game. That's just what Tom Brady does. That is the nature of the beast.
You say the nature of the beast is happened only 4 times in the playoffs. How's it the nature of the
Well, compared to any other quarterback that was like 0-39 in those situations.
Right.
Like, Tom Brady has an uncanny ability to make.
But I think a lot of people forget with Tom Brady is that he also lost 2 Super Bowls to the Giants where he wasn't on the field. He had done what he had to do, and someone that wasn't a household name at the time was able to come in and beat him. Mm-hmm. And I'm not calling Eli Manning a non-household name the second time, but the first time around, everyone's like, "Oh look, it's Peyton's brother. He's playing against the undefeated Patriots, and he goes in there on the final drive of the game and is able to win it." Come on.
I think the only way the Eagles have the chance to beat the Patriots is
There's only one way,
is if they get out to a 14-point lead early and then are able to control the ball in the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter.
You know, the one thing that's been missing for me for the Patriots in all these Super Bowls, and I love to be able to say all these Super Bowls, is they've never blown anyone out. It's always a close game. So I think as a Patriots fan, you're ignorant to think that it's going to be a blowout or the Eagles have no chance, because there's been teams, they had an 18-0 record at the time and went up against the Giants, and they only put up like 17 points or something like that. So, I mean, this was supposed to be the greatest offense to ever be on the field. This is, when it comes to the Patriots, they've never blown anyone out in the Super Bowl because they do play safe. And like most teams do. It's going to come down to a lot of luck for the Super Bowl. And everyone's like, oh, it's going to be blowout. No, it's not going to happen. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I think that it is going to be a close game. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I still think it's going to be close.
And I will say that I think Jim Schwartz is the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. I've always been a big Jim Schwartz fan myself. You see the turnaround he did with the Lions when he was a head coach there. You see what he did to the Bills, the defense, a couple years ago when he was there. He's a very good defensive coordinator. I think going against Tom Brady is still just one of the hardest tasks to do. But I guess I'd give the Eagles like a 10% chance if they can come out and if they can get the bounces in this game, and come out early, come out quick, and be able to set themselves up so they can just grind it out and run the clock down. Then I'd say they have a chance.
They won't do it.
But if it's the fourth quarter and you have to have Nick Foles go out and win you your game, you can hand the trophy out already.
I think what works for the Patriots is just the psychological game, because we all saw it. If you watch like Sound FX or whatever it is for Super Bowl or for NFL Network, the Patriots were losing again in the Super Bowl to Atlanta, and there were still Atlanta players on the side. Yeah, but I think Julio Jones was saying like, "Oh, we got this type of thing," and someone said to him, "Yeah, but he is Tom Brady." Like, they're always thinking that. I think the fact that just Tom Brady is the person he is, and the Patriots are the team they are, helps them a little bit. Just because of who they are, just because of that name, it gets people a little nervous, and including the players. We've seen it.
It gets often. Tom Brady gets into offensive coordinators' heads like you wouldn't.
And they're not even
believe.
facing him. That's what's
one of
insane
those
about
things
it.
where it's one of those things where, and we've seen it with every comeback. Like the Jaguars just threw the ball a ton in that second half. Like you have Leonard Fournette hand the ball off. Like you know, offensive coordinators get themselves into this mindset where they have to keep their foot on the gas. When the best way to keep your foot on the gas is to hand it off to your running back in some cases. You know, the Falcons had 2 good running backs last year. They passed the ball a bunch. The Jaguars had a good running back in Fournette. They passed the ball a bunch. And when you give Tom Brady more possessions, he's going to come back to bite you every single time. It just amazes me how offensive coordinators are just psyched out by the Patriots offense when they don't even face they're facing.
I think I was saying at least a half a dozen times in that third quarter, if the Jaguars just continue doing what they're doing, just run the ball, and do these little dump off plays, it's hands down.
Just need to move the ball. Right. It doesn't need to go far. You just got to control
run the ball, and when
control
you
the time.
Points, take the points.
There's not many times in Brady's career that if the other team holds the time of possession that he wins those games. So I mean, this is AFC Championship. You could almost call it. I mean, you can call it as you can say that. Oh, it's what Brady does all the time, or you can call it a fluke. It doesn't happen like that all the time. Usually he needs to hold the ball a lot longer in order to win these games. So, for me, I think that's a big thing for the Eagles. Is if you have those running backs that you rely on, you rely on them. You keep the ball as long as you possibly can, because the less time that Brady has to get comfortable out in the field is going to be the.
That's not about getting comfortable, but it's just a matter of the less.
Well, he works
time,
off. He does work off
time
momentum.
with the ball in his hand.
Right.
The better off you are.
So, we do have some fun coming up this weekend. If you're into that kind of thing, the Pro Bowl, the players, I guess, kind of have fun. The more kind of fun for me is tonight, Thursday night. We have the skills competition, which they brought back last year, which had some good things and some bad things. I think there were some competitions where we were like, you know what, that was more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Also, you asked me about this last week. The NHL All-Star Game is also this weekend, so we have a double up on skills competitions and fun.
And when's the skills competition for the...
I think it's Friday night?
Friday nights. That's actually a lot of fun to watch. They do a really good job with that for the NHL. They do not do a good job of promoting it, but they do a really good job of...
No, because you haven't heard one thing about the NHL All-Star
I just did from Dustin Tanner, and that's not good. If I'm hearing my NHL news from Dustin Tanner, we've got some problems.
Yeah, we do have some problems.
Because how is that not just flooding somewhere? Tell me, who's in it? What are the games? What's going on?
So it's on Saturday at 7 o'clock at night, by the way.
Great, so yeah, watch that and just hang out. So you have the skills competition. We have 5 different types of things that are going on. You have the dodgeball that comes back, which I thought we all thought was great, but I wish there was more time devoted to it. I felt like it was really rushed towards the end of the night, which it makes sense because that's the thing everyone's excited about. You have the relay challenge that just didn't work last year. The NFC, I think it broke or something like that. The sled broke, so they had to redo it. But then they knew what they had to do, so then they killed the time. Precision passing, which I thought was more exciting. Probably the best competition of that year.
Precision passing is the best, and
in my opinion, was the best. Yeah, and then you have best hands. Which I was really excited about, and then I was actually like, nah, you know what? It was very slow developing. I just wasn't a big fan of it. And then the new thing this year is kick-tack-toe, where you'll put place kickers against each other to play tic-tac-toe within the uprights, which I'm very excited about because I've just always been fascinated with kicking in general anyway, so I'm excited to see who's going to go up against each other.
You know what I wish they would do, and the NBA kind of adopted this because, they have the skills challenge, and the longest time it was point guards. And then now it turned, the dribble the course challenge, and then they let the big men do it. I would like to see a precision passing with non-quarterbacks. Give me Vince Wilfork in the precision.
Talking when the big men do the skill.
Give me Vince Wilfork doing precision passing. Just give that to me.
He'd have to come out of retirement.
Right, but give me Joey Bosa and Jadainian Clowney just doing best hands or just chucking the ball to see.
Joe Thomas doing precision passing would be great. Show the quarterbacks how it's done.
This
is what you're missing in Cleveland. This is what you're missing in Cleveland. How awesome would that be if he did that?
I just think it would add, and you could have the quarterbacks do it too on a set, but I just think it'd add a little more fun to see,
I would like to see quarterbacks do best hands.
There's nothing more fun about the NFL All-Star weekend. It's a joke. Or Pro Bowl weekend, I should say.
Pro Bowl, the game itself, I'm not going to watch the Pro Bowl.
The whole thing is
But tonight, I might watch a little bit. I
haven't recorded it to
I'll
watch.
watch tonight, but the downfall with the NFL is that the people you want, to see in these types of events and in the Pro Bowl don't play, or can't play because of the Super Bowl don't even go, aren't participating. You have a bunch of people that no one cares about. Like, for instance, I saw one of the people on here that I was just really like, Alex Smith, he had a good year. No one cares about you.
Was it Michael Thomas for the Saints? That was my kind of big one. I was like, really? That's the best you could do?
Much.
That's the best you could do this year? Well, no, he did do well this year, but like that's the draw.
Yeah. Devontae Adams,
Quan Alexander from Tampa. That's the best we can do.
Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen are the two best receivers.
And
we
I think
can
a
throw
lot of
in
it
this.
has to do with just look at this year. Look how many injuries there were this year. So even the teams that aren't in the Super Bowl, there's no talent really to be. There's no like extreme talent to be had. You don't have your OBJs.
I'll take one from my team. DeAndre Hopkins was named to the Pro Bowl. He has a calf injury that he sat out the last week. That he surprisingly sat out the last week of the year with, and is still too hurt to go to the Pro Bowl, even though he's not having surgery. Like
no one cares about the Pro Bowl, and that's the disgrace to the NFL. And
but like Antonio Brown, they don't have him listed here. DeAndre Hopkins, don't have him listed here. AJ Green, you don't have listed here. Keenan Allen is your Keenan Allen, Jarvis Landry. Those are your guys right now. Even
who?
The top three I just said there, and then you're still missing people like OBJ. Mm-hmm. Those are the guys we want to see. So the fact that you add injury, you add just interest. Mm-hmm. No one really wants to go in this first place, and then you have the teams that are in. You're missing all-stars there as well. It's not really anything to watch. Like I said, the precision passing was great because I think last year it was
Drew Brees
versus Dalton or something like that.
Dalton, you had Phillip Rivers.
Right.
Who was the other one in there?
Nah, there was one more.
I don't remember who the other one was.
Cam Newton, didn't he do it?
No.
I don't know.
So that's
he'd lose.
Well, anyway, I was saying like those are the things. If you had bigger name talent, I'm not saying that like Von Miller and I got to keep going down this list here.
Your best names in here are defensive
Russell
players.
Wilson, right?
Like that's how sad this is. Your best best players in this on the confirmed list are defensive players.
Ryan Kerrigan for Washington, just a very underrated like linebacker. That guy is so much fun to watch from week to week. Again, I'm still going to watch. I think I'm excited to see how they change. Last year was the test. Okay, does this work? Yeah, people were interested more in this than they were in the Pro Bowl. Let's do it again, but let's do it better.
Yep.
And they're still going to have things like the drone drop as well, which I'm like, all right. I mean, it didn't really work last year. You also didn't show all the rounds last year.
The fact it's not live is probably my number one pet peeve.
And that was our biggest thing about the 3-on-3 league with created by Ice Cube, is that the games weren't live. And I think this year they're going to be live, which makes it a little more interesting. But the fact that you don't have the skills competition live, which I get why you can't, because it's based on over 4 or 5 hours condensed into an hour show. I get that. But it's a bummer that at least something's not live. I'd rather you do a whole hour of NFL dodgeball for an hour.
Yeah.
I'm glued to my seat. It'd probably be the most exciting thing I'd be watching all year.
It would be fun.
So again, Pro Bowl this weekend. I don't really care. Kills competition. I'm excited about. Let's bring it back to Franklin County with our home field advantage. Dustin had the privilege of being able to do some commentary for the local teams. We have some great feedback on Facebook. And we have some things in the works that I think Franklin County people are going to get excited about, but we're not going to talk about it yet. Hopefully we'll have more news in the coming weeks. Your home field advantage is going to be talking about the BFA games, but I know what I want to talk about, which also includes a BFA game. So I want you just to kind of, if you're going to focus on the BFA game, talk about the teams, but I want to talk about something a little different coming up after that.
So I just wanted to mention that it's that time of the year where we start watching BFA basketball and both teams start to turn the corner a little bit. The girls are still at the top 6 as far as the table goes. Very good chance to host some home playoff games. And the boys had a big statement win the other night against an undefeated previous, Milton D2 team that had come into the game with a lot of hype surrounding them.
Pretty one-sided, no?
And pretty one-sided. But no, BFA, the boys are 5-4. The girls are still at the top. They blew out Spalding this week. Just a good week for the basketball team. It's going to be really interesting to see now that we're getting into that, February push where, this is where a lot of the seeding is decided. You have 2 or 3 games a week. Now there's no more winter breaks until you get to the playoffs. Like kids are in school. This is where you see.
Well, there's one more winter break in February.
That's when the playoffs started most of the time.
Okay. Right. Yes, going into the last week.
This is your final push. This is your push month. This is where, all the eyes are on you now. Everybody's paying attention. There's no other local sports going on. And also to mention, the BFA hockey team both hockey teams doing well.
I don't think either. I don't know what the result of last night was, the BFA girls game, but I think as of right now, both teams don't have a loss.
Yeah, they're both great.
I was talking with Luke Coffey, coach of the BFA girls team. They were 8-0-1 on the year.
Both teams are playing great.
And the boys have let up an average of 1 goal a game. So.
What is your sports highlight?
My sports highlight it's something you guys talked about during the Milton game. I guess my beef right now is with the BFA crowd. They were yelling. I love this. They were yelling overrated for. Can you name the kid for Milton?
Ian Jennings.
Ian Jennings. At the time he was going to the line. The BFA crowd, the seniors or whatever, the student section was yelling or chanting overrated. And the only thing I could think of is, I'm not even going on the lines of what you were saying. You said he's got 11 points this quarter. I think Bryce said he's properly rated. Like, he's got 11 points. He's doing what a normal high school athlete wouldn't do to have that many points in one quarter. And he finished with over like 20 points or something like that overall. My problem is he's a D2 Vermont high school basketball player. Who's overrated in Vermont basketball? Is there a play? Where's that line?
You just grew up different.
How do you grow? That's what I'm saying, though. Like, I grew up in Massachusetts where people went on to, like, actual, like, no offense, but D1 colleges and played. You grew up in the Syracuse area
when
where
Routins came into the stadium and put up 60 points a night.
This is what I'm saying. Like, this, I guess we definitely grew up in a different part of the Northeast here. But how do you be overrated? Is this guy like, is Jennings on Twitter like every day saying like gonna drop 30? That's the only reason I could think that you're overrated.
If he did, he literally almost dropped 30. Like, he dropped like 27 in the game.
But it's not like he's a D1 like fully scouted basketball player in Vermont, which I can't remember if we've ever had one. He's a D2 to no fault of his own. That's where he lives. But he's D2 basketball player that's still putting up over 20 points. How is he overrated? If he's doing his job, his team doesn't win. That's not really his fault if he does what he can.
As a 16-year-old fan,
nuts.
you just have you're just trying to
say whatever you want, right? Yeah, you just say whatever you want as a fan.
That's it.
I mean, one of my favorite chants of all time when I was in high school was thanks for practice, because we had a team that was going to the finals. We knew that in high school. And when we would face someone and we just get crushed, we'd just yell, thanks for practice. That's fantastic. We appreciate the little bit of competition here.
A lot. We rocked a lot of newspaper in our stadium.
No, we didn't do that.
A lot of newspaper.
We didn't have the stands to be able to do it. If everyone did that, we just elbows into everybody's face. So we didn't do that. So I had a problem with the fact that BFA crowd, that's the chant they went with. I feel like there's so many other different ones they could have done. Start the buses, thanks for... There's so many other things you could say. Overrated for a kid who's actually playing really well on the team and is performing better than anyone else on the team.
Isaiah Thomas,
for a Division II team, unless they were saying it for the entire team, maybe that's a little different. But even so, it's a Division I team playing a Division II team. I feel like you can't really bring that out. If they were playing an undefeated team in Division I and they were beating by the 20 points that they were, yeah, I think maybe an overrated is properly allowed.
If Rice comes in and BFA houses an undefeated Rice team, all right, you can chant overrated. That makes sense at that point.
To me, I wouldn't want to, and we discussed this last week, I don't really want them to give them that bulletin board material because who knows if you're going to see them again. And now they won't because it's Milton and BFA. I don't think they play each other again. Unless BFA goes to Milton, I'm not sure if that's on their schedule or not.
Actually, I'm going to look that up.
You don't really have time to look it up, Dustin, because it's time for my favorite segment of the week. It's growing on me very much.
Boy.
So every week, just to set the stage here, Dustin, for this would be the 89th, by the way, episode of Huddle Up. So for most of the episodes that Dustin has been involved in, he's had someone that he's just called trash.
Can we have a
someone or multiple?
Garbage. It's hot charts, hot garbage, all that stuff. So I just said to Dustin, hey, what if you came on and we have you a segment and said, you tell us who in the last week was just trash. And Dustin, please tell us who you think was just trash.
We'll let the graphic play here. I love this animation.
Go ahead.
Some of my favorite animations ever. You kind of stole mine with your sports highlight, and I'm going to add on to it. Local crowds. Last week I had issues with the refs. This week I'm having some issues with student sections and athletic departments. As you guys know, I do hockey games for South Burlington sometimes, and I was in the box for a hockey game where MVU played South Burlington. And sportsmanship is something parents should teach their kids. And there were multiple words shouted at the referees by the hockey team for the MVU girls that I cannot repeat on air, that I don't even know if past midnight I can repeat on air.
Probably not.
Loud enough in an arena where little kids heard, where everybody heard, loud enough where you could hear on the other side of the ice. And I understand you can get frustrated with refs. And I understand that, look, when you're playing a game as intense as hockey, you don't get a call your way, you're mad. But to be cussing at referees and using swear words at referees for calling correct calls, too, mind you. Like the calls that were being called on this hockey team last week, you know, it was MVU girls versus South Burlington. You know, they were correct calls to the point where our athletic director in South Burlington on the other side of the arena could hear the cussing from the penalty box for the MVU girls. And that is really, you know, as somebody who enjoys covering sports in our county and as a coach myself, if any of my kids ever swore at an official, you're sitting down. You are sitting down. Because the fact of the matter is that these officials are not high paid. You know, they're making like $50 a game. A lot of these officials in the state of Vermont, yes, I gave them the just trash last week for, you know, calling egregious fouls, because some do call egregious fouls. But, you know, at the end of the day, these people are doing it because they played the sport in high school. They love the sport. These are not professional officials. These are people who have day jobs, have night jobs, who are coming in and helping because they want to make your sport happen. And on top of that, student sections. BFA student section really pushed the line against Milton the other night to the point where, you know, I had Milton parents, you know, it's been a conversation in the town, throwing popcorn, taunting, being way too close to the action as it came by. And, like, I understand having fun as a student section, but there comes a point where you need to respect the opponent. And, you know, taunting kids as they go by, you know, the shouting overrated. That's one of the taunts we heard. But apparently they were getting really nasty. And I just want to remind kids that at the end of the day, this is high school sports, okay? You know, a lot of these people in 10, 15 years, you're going to be working besides coworkers and such. So just have some respect for the game. Have some respect for everybody who comes out and plays. Nobody is making $1 million here, and it's kind of disheartening when, you know, you have a good matchup between two good teams, and then you have an entire fan base from Milton say, you know, these kids were throwing popcorn at my kids. These kids were cussing. These kids were doing this. These kids were chanting things. So my just trash of the week is the high schoolers and high school athletics, because I understand you can get passionate and heated, but you got to keep it clean enough where little kids look up to you, because when you're in high school, a lot of little kids look up to you. And you need to raise a generation of kids that are at least respectful of the game. And it's something that really bothered me and really set me off this week, especially when I was in South Burlington, sitting in a press box, covering a South Burlington game. My first game of South Burlington as, you know, an MVU girls team. No, you knew, you know, we're just to the point where, and, you know, good on the refs for not going to the point, but everybody on that MVU bench was swearing, you know, was shouting F-bombs, and it really puts Franklin County athletics in a bad light if you go down to other places, and because you don't get a call, you're calling the ref things that I can't even say on this TV show. And that's my just trash of this week.
Kind of brings a tear to your eye. It's so emotional.
I don't know, man. Where I grew up.
You have a lot more? Yeah, you have a lot more? Yeah, I think right what you're saying is kind of gets, you have to be, I liked kind of what you said. You said you don't have to like the team, but you have to at least be respectful of your opponent. And I get that. I think if it comes to a point where you're now interfering with play other than vocally, that's kind of where that's where I draw the line. Yep. And then also with bad language as well.
You know, another thing is, like, you can
there's no place for it in high school sports.
Like you mentioned the newspapers. I love the newspaper, the idea of holding up newspapers when the starting line is. I love things like that. I love student sections that get into the game.
Silent nights, those are my favorite too.
Like, I love student sections that are there in full force and get into the game. But just remember, you know, keep it respectful. You can have a lot of fun and still keep it respectful. And that's...
Oh, indeed. You can have a lot of fun and not be respectful.
You can have a lot of fun and be respectful. Is that what we're going with?
That's what we're going with. Okay.
Have a lot of fun and respectful. So that was Dustin's Just Trash of the week. I really thought he was going to go with Case Keenum, but that's just me. So, or LeBron James for that matter. I mean, that's fantastic.
I was going to go with the LeBron
Isaiah
James
Thomas.
monologue.
There's so much you could have went with. Just trash this week. But you went with the BFA student section, and that's fine. I'm not going to apologize for bringing that up in my home field advantage because I do send you the rundown every time before the game, before we go on.
You said a sports highlight.
So it says BFA crowd yelling overrated is what it says on home field advantage. You could ask me for the rundown in the morning. It's right here on the table. He has one, I have one, we all have it.
Last time I had it.
Just saying, it's right here. We have a little bit left. I wanted to get into Oscar nominations came out this week. I haven't seen one movie on, I think, any Oscar nomination, and for the exact reason, for the fact that I have twin girls and I'm just not going anywhere. And movies don't come out on demand fast enough for me to be able to watch them in between feedings there. But I wanted to kind of bring it back to sports and say what storyline from the NFL season, because we're almost at the end of this NFL season where we don't have anything going on until draft night, where it could even blow up even more. But that's like the Super Bowl is our last like hurrah for the NFL season. So with Oscar nominations, what story from this NFL season should be or could be made into a movie?
I think it's Case Keenum. I think it's easily.
Explain. Give me a little rundown of this movie.
Case Keenum started this roster, started this year, and looking for a job. Was signed as the third-string quarterback for the Vikings. Was never supposed to play, and led them to the NFC Championship game. And sure, they got shellacked in that championship game. But the Vikings had a bunch of injuries. It was such a great story.
I think for like a movie like that, you have Case Keenum. He wins the championship game, the divisional game. But it's like that, and the credits where they're saying like Case Keenum now lives in,
Omaha,
Nebraska, and it's like he didn't win the championship game, but it's something that Minnesota will talk about for years down the line. Like I can see that. Like we don't actually get to see the result of the championship game where he gets shellacked.
Well,
but
the thing you look at Minnesota, I would say just Minnesota, not just Case Keenum, because it's so much more than that. You have Teddy Bridgewater finally come off an injury. Yeah. Finally come back into a stadium and to watch the uproar there.
They can bring it up a little bit.
Mine's going to be different, though.
Okay, so tell us about yours. I'm
going to go St. Louis. Or not St. Louis, LA Rams.
St. Louis, all right. Cardinals.
The feel-good story about not having a football team.
I'm going to go with the LA Rams.
It's just people crying on their couch.
Solely because I look at a team that went through such a struggle last year and had so much frustration to a team that made the playoffs, that played fantastic football. They still have work to do, but you're talking from a team that's coming from bottom of the barrel, now pushing their way up towards the top of the barrel. And for me, that's a story. Minnesota has been good and been good and been good. Not been able to get it done, but they've been good enough to get there.
Now I'm gonna workshop your story, and I'm gonna turn it into a film about how 3 NFL players have defeated the Jeff Fisher regime, which features Nick Foles, Jared Goff, and Case Keenum, about how, after getting out from under this terrible coach, have all been able to play good football and realize their passion for the game again. So I'll one-up your story right there.
Not horrible bosses, I see horrible coaches. And it's just those 3 guys' faces and then Jeff Fisher. And it's like we got away. We were able to defeat it.
We escaped it.
With a cameo from Todd Gurley.
For me, it's not about a single team, it's about a single player. And the best part is guys, it can't be done with one movie. This has to be a sequel. I have to have a second movie here because the end of the movie isn't done yet. We haven't seen it yet. We saw a guy that is loved by so many barely get to hit the field this year. But what did he do when he was off the field? He brought a city together and was able to bring them up
You're
from the
gonna make
ashes.
him start crying.
I'm really hoping
Here
for
it
a plot
comes.
twist where it's not J.J. Watt.
He's able to bring the city together. His name is J.J. Watt. I feel like this is the story of J.J. Watt. This is a movie that is just, it could be its own documentary or biopic or whatever because of what he went through this year, emotionally and physically. And the best part is, it's not even over yet because we got to see what happens next year. We have to see what happens.
And
also, we haven't even
breaks.
We haven't
His
even, wait,
ankle.
hold on. We haven't even seen yet because he's going to win Walter Payton Man of the Year award. So there's your look, there's your teaser. Look what he was able to do. He was able to finish off his season like this. But he gets to come back next year and prove himself physically now to where he can win. He can compete.
Can I just say, haven't we been saying this for like the last 3 years?
Yeah,
that he can't get healthy.
As your resident Texans fan,
I didn't say it was a good movie.
I don't think your movie.
It's on the lines of Lifetime right now, but I think we can get it up to like that whole like James Cameron. If he comes back and does well next year and make comeback play of the year, goes to him and Deshaun Watson go out there and just crush it. I mean, we're talking like Jason Bay, and we're doing a good job here. So that's all the time we have for Huddle Up. JT, Dustin, myself, Paul. We'll be back next week. Enjoy, I guess, the Pro Bowl or anything else that you could
NHL
possibly
skills
do.
competition.
Skills competition.
Maybe take some time off, go see your family.
NHL All-Star competition. Yeah, definitely spend time with your family this weekend because next weekend you're going to be glued to your television set. That's going to do it for us on Huddle Up. We'll see you next week.